Before the story opens like a quiet book, allow your breath to soften. Inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for a delicate pause and exhale like a sigh through your mouth for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, inhale. Imagine the air like a warm silk ribbon gliding into your chest. Hold, exhale, and imagine that ribbon loosening and drifting out to the night. Let your shoulders release downward, as if they are setting down a small pack after a long, contented walk. Feel your jaw unclench with kindness. Let your eyes grow heavy, as though the moon has wrapped them in a soft silver shawl. If any stray thought wanders through, let it pass the way. A deer might cross a moonlit path, quiet, unhurried, harmless. Each breath draws you deeper into warmth and safety. Each exhale invites your body to rest. When you are ready, step into tonight's gentle world. You arrive just as the last thread of twilight is stitching itself into night. The forest greets you with a hush that is not empty, but alive pine boughs whispering, a creek muttering somewhere to the left, and the careful padding of small nocturnal feet in the underbrush. The path beneath your boots is soft with old needles, their resin-sweet scent rising like a memory you've always loved. A breeze settles the crown of the trees, and the stars appear with patient certainty, one by one, like lanterns being lit in a distant village you can't quite see. Ahead, a cabin waits with a lantern glowing on its porch, amber light pooling over the step, touching the hand-hewn railing and catching on the gentle curve of a rocking chair. The chair sways once as if someone just stood, and you feel that rare, effortless certainty that you are expected and welcomed. The door is carved with a pinecone motif, small and simple, worn by many hands that have pushed it open with relief after a day's wandering. You step onto the porch and pause, listening to the forest's soft chorus. An owl calls a mellow question from a cedar post. You answer without words by resting your palm on the door, feeling its smooth grain, the faint warmth it has borrowed from the lantern's glow. You turn the handle. The door opens with a kindly sigh. Inside, the cabin breathes. The air is wood smoke and cinnamon, beeswax and baked apple, wool and the faint, clean hush of snow. Even though the night outside is autumn dark, some memory of winter lives in the timber and keeps it sweet. To your right, a fireplace waits, stones rounded and river-worn, stacked in a hearth that looks as though it grew from the floor. A fire has already been made, the logs settle and embers brighten as you enter, and the first thing you hear is the soft, patient conversation of flames. Their voices are low and friendly, like old friends who have saved the best part of the story for when you arrived. You set your small pack on a bench by the door and toe off your boots. Your feet meet a thick braided rug that feels like a field of quiet, hand-woven from twilight colors, deep moss, dusk blue, the gentle gray of cloud bellies just before rain. You can't help it. Your shoulders drop another inch. You make your way to the fireplace and stretch your hands toward its glow, letting the heat move into your fingers, your wrists, your palms. The crackle answers. A log splits with a polite hush and settles into a brighter conversation. The light climbs the walls and finds old photographs in black frames, a snowy path, a summer meadow, a river cupping the moon. On the low table by the hearth sits a tray that has clearly been waiting for you, a teapot with a knitted cozy, the color of cranberries, 2 wide mugs with thumb rests worn to satin, and a small dish of honey that shines like a square of late afternoon. Steam curls from the spout in a ribbon, and the scent of chamomile and crushed apple peels floats toward you as though tugging your sleeve. There is a note under one of the mugs, written in a tidy hand, on paper flecked with flower petals. Welcome home. Pour as you please. I'll be in after I feed the night visitors. M. You smile, and the inside of your chest feels like a candle has been lit there. You pour a mug. The tea takes its time, drumming gently against the sides of the pot, sighing as it fills the cup. When you lift it, the heat warms your palms, and the steam brushes your nose like friendly breath. You sit in a chair whose cushions dimly remember the shapes of many readers and map makers. The fabric is soft and brushed with patterns of leaves that look like they might shiver if the wind snuck in. You take a first sip. The chamomile is buttery and mild, the apple bright at the edges, the honey a warm hum underneath. By the window stands a simple wooden desk facing the forest. On it are the tools of quiet evenings, an old fountain pen that has traveled in more pockets than you can guess, a leather-bound journal with a sprig of dried yarrow tucked beneath the strap, a tin of pencils smelling faintly of cedar and graphite. In the windowsill, 3 smooth stones keep company with an acorn cap and a feather freckled brown and cream. You feel your own edges soften as you look at them, as if even your thoughts have decided to fold themselves into a gentler shape. The door stirs and opens on a seam of cool forest air. In steps the cabin's keeper, M, wearing a sweater the color of warm wheat and a scarf that looks like late summer twilight. Their smile is as unassuming and generous as the bread on a farmhouse table. You made it, M says, voice pitched low, out of respect for the hour, for the small creatures already nesting in the shadows. I did, you answer, already feeling the word we in the way your voice sounds in this room. M taps the toe of their boot on the mat to shake off pine needles, then cradles a small wooden bowl in both hands. Inside, you glimpse the night visitor's supper, a mosaic of seeds, 2 shelled walnuts, and a handful of berries soft as dusk. The fox has a taste for blackberries, confides, as if sharing a secret with an old friend, and the hedgehog likes to pretend the walnuts are mountains to climb. The thought of a hedgehog's careful journey over walnut peaks sends a contented ripple through you. You can almost hear the tiny feet and see the prickled silhouette against a pale slice of moon. M sets the bowl by the back door, then comes to the hearth and warms their hands. The fire is in a good mood tonight, they say. The flames nod and lick the log as though in agreement. It wanted you here. The forest, too. The pines murmured about a traveler who knows how to listen. You don't say that you hope that traveler is you. You simply breathe in, and the room fills your lungs. Wood smoke and wool, tea, and a faint citrus from the polish on the table. The clock on the mantel is a quiet creature. It ticks like a mouse's heartbeat, gentle and uninsistent. In a corner, a quilt hangs over the arm of a sofa, patches of stars and river blue triangles, stitched together so smoothly your fingertips itch to follow the seams. Outside, the creek speaks more clearly now that the day's noises are gone. It's not far. You imagine its water running velvet slow over smooth stones, the way moonlight lays itself across the surface like a sleeping cat, content to be heavy and warm. An owl sweeps past the window again, and the air whispers in its wake. In the tree line, a fox's tail draws a question mark. You'll rest well here, Monsieur Zaz. If narrating a truth, the cabin itself has been whispering. But for now, let's let the night open a little more. They lift the latch on a narrow side window. cool air drifts in, edged with the minty hush of crushed needles and a distant, syrup-sweet hint of sap. The fire answers with a satisfied breath and leans toward the draught. Its light pulls deeper into the room, into the comfortable hollow where you sit. You take another sip of tea, and with it comes the sense of your day slipping off like a coat you no longer need to wear. You notice small details that feel like gifts, the way the knots in the ceiling beams resemble constellations, the tiny hand-painted sparrow on your mug's handle, the faint, shiny thread in the rug that catches the firelight and turns it to a trail. Beneath the chair, a basket holds tidily stacked logs and a folded newspaper whose headline is unimportant and already gently fading from your memory, like writing washed by rain. M crosses to the desk and opens the journal, leaving it angled to the chair so you might write later, if you wish, if your thoughts want to stroll onto paper the way raccoons stroll along the creek at night. We leave it open for travelers, M says. Everyone writes something different, but it's always kind. Last week, someone drew a map of their favorite stars, and the week before that, a poem about the sound of snow falling. You think of the way your own handwriting might look under this lamp, a little taller, perhaps, in this quiet, a little less hurried. Maybe I'll write about the fire, you say. The fire, obligingly, pops once, then settles into a calmer glow. A gentle rustle at the back door makes Monsieur smile. The night is ready for dinner, they say, lifting the little wooden bowl. Would you like to watch? You do. On the back step, the world is a soft bowl of darkness, edged by the silver of the sky. The trees breathe, and from beneath the fern fronds comes the faintest puff of curiosity. M sets the bowl down and retreats to the threshold. You both wait without impatience. The hedgehog appears first, nose like a tiny thimble, eyes bright as seed beads. It tests the air, then toddles toward the walnuts with a determination that is somehow both comical and grand. A fox, slim and elegant as brushstrokes, remains at the edge like a polite guest hovering near a banquet, waiting to be invited. You feel your heart settle into a slower rhythm, the one it keeps when you're holding a sleeping cat or listening to rain on a tent roof. M whispers, "There's room for everyone, and there is on the step, in the bowl, in this night." When you return inside, the room has grown even more itself, more warm, more scented with wood and quiet sleep. Monsieur refills the kettle and sets it on a black iron arm that swings over the fire. There's time for one more cup, they say, and then the loft is ready for you. The bed has been warmed with a brick wrapped in flannel, the way my grandmother used to do. The window looks out toward the creek. If it's your wish, you can fall asleep to water's lullaby. Your eyes grow heavier, in the way that means you'll sleep deeply and well. The kettle sighs. The fire lowers its voice to a murmuring purr. You finish your tea. M straightens the rug with a gentle tug, sets the mugs where they'll be easy to find in the morning, and dims the lantern until it's just a heartbeat of gold. "Welcome home," they say again, as though the words themselves were a quilt drawn over your shoulders. Rest is the only task tonight. You breathe in, you breathe out. The cabin, the forest, the creek, and the sky all breathe with you, and the world seems to agree. You belong here, and the night will keep you. The kettle has hushed itself into stillness, and the fire, satisfied with its evening's work, glows in soft reds and oranges. The flames no longer leap but rest, like a choir finishing a hymn, content with the resonance that lingers in the rafters. You lift your mug one last time, feel the faint warmth cloth against your palm and set it gently down. Monsieur gestures to the staircase that curves along the wall, really more a ladder than a flight of steps, carved with care, polished by many hands and feet. The wood feels smooth beneath your fingertips as you place your hand on the banister, steady and familiar, as though it has been waiting for you. You climb slowly, savoring the creak of each rung, the way the firelight follows you upward, painting amber on the ceiling beams. The loft opens gradually, and with each step your eyes adjust to the tender dimness above. By the time you reach the last rung, the world below seems distant, as if you've climbed not just to a loft, but into a softer sky. The loft is cozy, angled beneath the pitched roof, with beams that meet like clasped hands overhead. The walls are lined with shelves carved directly into the wood, and they hold treasures of a quiet life. Worn books, whose spines curve with affection, jars of dried herbs labeled in looping script lavender, thyme, rosemary, bundles of wildflowers, dried into delicate silhouettes, and a glass jar filled with polished stones that catch the lantern glow like drops of moon. But your eyes are drawn immediately to the bed. It rests against the far wall beneath a window framed in pine, the quilt folded back to reveal sheets that look cool and clean, linen woven in cream and pale green. The quilt itself is a story, patches of deep navy stitched with constellations, others painted with swirls of silver thread that gleam when you tilt your head. A soft fringe of wool lines the edges, thick and inviting. Atop the bed sits a small clay brick wrapped in flannel, as M promised. The warmth it carries radiates faintly, like an ember hidden in cloth. You touch it and smile at the thought of a grandmother's hand smoothing the fabric, ensuring it carries comfort into the night. Monsieur climbs up behind you, carrying a small lantern with a golden flame that flickers like the heartbeat of the cabin itself. They set it on the bedside table, which is nothing more than a sturdy stump polished smooth, a ring of its years still visible on the surface. Here, M says softly, you'll hear the creak most clearly. If you open the window a crack, the water will keep you company. You step toward the window and lift the latch. A cool breath flows in, tender and clean, brushing your cheek like a whispered greeting. The creek sings, its voice steady and patient, like a lullaby it has known forever. The rhythm is unhurried, water over stone, water over memory, water flowing into tomorrow without hurry. You linger at the window. The forest outside is cloaked in moonlight, silver dusting the pines, shadows stretched long and kind. Fireflies drift lazily, their lights rising and fading as though they are breathing with you. Somewhere close, the fox moves again, and you catch the faintest glimpse of its russet fur threading through ferns. The owl resumes its gentle questions, and the forest seems to answer with silence, a silence that feels full rather than empty. Returning to the bed, you sit down, and the mattress welcomes you, as though it has known your weight before. The quilt smells faintly of lavender and cedar, a scent so clean and calming that your shoulders melt without your asking. Em adjusts the lantern until its flame is low, only enough to cast a circle of soft light around you both. This loft, they say, is where dreams seem to gather first. Sometimes I think the stars themselves come down and tuck themselves in here before returning to the sky. They gesture at the quilt with its stitched constellations. Every patch was made by someone who loved the night, who saw beauty in its quiet. You run your fingertips over the seams, feeling the ridges of careful stitches, the patience woven into every line. Each square feels like a doorway into a gentle world. One patch hums of summer nights, another of winter's hush, another of spring's green promise. M picks up the jar of polished stones and sets it near you. Each visitor leaves one here, if they choose, they explain. The stones inside gleam in different colors: pale rose, deep blue, a flecked green like moss. They carry stories, little anchors for peaceful nights. You're welcome to choose one and keep it by your pillow. You reach into the jar, fingers brushing smooth surfaces until one feels right round, cool, with a faint shimmer. You place it on the stump table, beside the lantern. Its presence is small but steady, like a reminder that the night itself is on your side. M smiles, then drapes a lighter quilt across the chair near the window. "I'll let you settle in," they say. "The fire below will keep steady until morning, and if you hear soft paws on the roof, it's only the squirrels chasing dreams." With a nod and a quiet goodnight, M descends the ladder, leaving you in the loft's gentle hush. The lantern flickers once, then steadies. You slip beneath the quilt of stars. The fabric brushes against your skin with the softness of meadow grass, the warmth of sunlight remembered. The pillow cradles your head, scented faintly with rosemary. The creek hums through the open window. The fire breathes from below. The forest leans close with its perfumes of pine and moss and moonlight. You feel yourself stretch into the bed, as if your body knows this rhythm already. Each exhale is longer, each inhale smoother. For a while, you trace the quilt's constellations with your fingertips, letting them guide you like a map. You think of the stars beyond the window, shining in sympathy. And then, as your eyes grow heavy, you simply listen to water, to wind, to the small hush of the cabin as it sighs into its own dreams. Tonight, you are safe. Tonight, you are held. Tonight, the forest and the fire and the creek are your lullaby. When your eyes open again, it is to the gentlest kind of brightness. The loft window holds a pale dawn, silver first, then touched with a faint honey gold as the sun lifts itself over the horizon. The quilt of stars has kept you warm through the night, and as you stretch beneath it, you feel as though the entire cabin has been breathing with you in rhythm. The creek still hums softly outside, but now it carries the laughter of daybirds, warblers, and thrushes, with voices like drops of crystal falling into a basin. Their song is bright, yet never startling, woven into the morning like embroidery on soft linen. The air drifting in from the open window is cool, carrying the clean perfume of pine and damp moss, sharpened by dew. It touches your skin and feels like a blessing. You sit up slowly, pressing your palm to the quilt's stitched constellations. The fabric has cooled in the night, but the memory of warmth lingers. The little polished stone you placed beside your pillow glimmers faintly, as though it has caught some fragment of starlight and is reluctant to let it go. When you swing your feet to the floor, the wooden boards feel smooth and faintly warm from the fire that still glows in the hearth below. You lean to the window. The forest is softened in a morning mist that drapes between the trunks like a silken shawl. Through it, you see the fox once more, stepping lightly, pausing to nose the ground where seeds and berries were left. The hedgehog has returned to its den, but its path through the dew is visible, tiny dotted trails glistening in the light. You hear a soft rattle from below. M is already awake, moving about the kitchen, the sound of ceramic mugs clinking, the faint scrape of a wooden spoon, and the sigh of the kettle rising to a simmer reach your ears like familiar music. The scent of oats toasting, mingled with apple slices and cinnamon, drifts upward to greet you. You descend the ladder slowly, savoring the cozy hush that still clings to the cabin. The fire has been coaxed gently back to life. Flames lick at a fresh log, sending out waves of amber warmth. M stands at the counter, sleeves rolled up, hair a little tousled from the morning. They stir a pot with an easy rhythm. "Good morning," they say, their voice like warm bread. "Did the loft treat you kindly?" "It was perfect," you answer, and the word perfect feels small compared to the calm that still wraps around you. M smiles knowingly and ladles steaming porridge into 2 wide bowls. Each bowl is topped with slices of pear and a handful of nuts. They set one before you at the table, where sunlight is streaming through the window onto a checked cloth. "Eat slowly," they say. "The forest has all the time in the world, and so do you." The porridge tastes like comfort creamy, a little sweet, the pear bright as morning light. Each spoonful warms you from within, spreading to your hands, your chest, your very thoughts. After breakfast, M pours tea into the same mugs from last night. This time, the scent is green and herbal, with notes of mint and lemon balm. Steam curls upward, like a spirit rising toward the rafters. The cabin feels alive with morning. Outside, the mist lifts gently to reveal brighter greens, moss gleaming, ferns uncurling, the pines standing tall as guardians. Sunlight dapples the forest floor in patterns that shift as branches sway. The creek is livelier now, carrying light-like strands of ribbon across its surface. M sets their mug down and looks toward the window. The forest likes visitors who rise with kindness, they say. "Would you like to walk with me?" The path behind the cabin leads to a meadow where the deer graze. It's especially peaceful this time of morning. You nod, and together you prepare for the stroll. You slip on your boots, still faintly scented with pine needles from the night before. At the door, M takes a small pouch of seed. "The songbirds know this bag well," they explain with a smile. Stepping onto the porch, you feel the morning air surround you, cool, fresh, touched with promise. The forest greets you with its chorus. Bird calls, the sigh of branches, the steady whisper of the creek. The path behind the cabin is narrow but clear, winding between tall trunks where sunlight makes a mosaic on the ground. Each step is cushioned by moss and pine needles, soft enough that your footsteps make barely a sound. A squirrel pauses on a branch above, tail flicking, eyes bright with curiosity. It chitters once, then bounds away, leaping from tree to tree as though guiding you forward. The deeper you go, the quieter the forest becomes, not silent, but hushed, as though it's listening to its own breath. You inhale, and the scent of earth and resin fills your lungs. You exhale, and it feels as if you're blending with the rhythm of the trees. After some time, the path opens into a meadow edged by wildflowers. Their colors are softened by dew, pale yellows, gentle purples, soft whites that glow like lanterns. In the center of the meadow, deer graze with unhurried grace. Their coats glisten faintly with the morning's mist. One lifts its head, ears flicking, and regards you calmly, without fear. M scatters a handful of seeds at the meadow's edge. Soon finches and sparrows flutter down, their wings shimmering in the rising sunday. They peck at the ground, their little bodies bobbing, voices weaving through the air like threads of music. You stand beside M, watching as the forest reveals its morning rituals. It feels as though you've been invited to a ceremony, ancient and unchanging, yet deeply intimate. The meadow sways gently in the breeze, flowers nodding, deer grazing, birds trilling. The world feels both immense and impossibly tender, and you realize you are not merely observing it, you are part of it. You breathe in once more, feeling the meadow's calm fill you as completely as the fire and quilt did the night before. The forest seems to lean closer, whispering, "You belong here," and you do. The deer continue to graze in quiet grace, their ears flicking now and then at the sound of wings or the stir of grass. You stand at the edge of the meadow, and it feels as though time itself has slowed to match the rhythm of their movements. Each flick of a tail, each step forward into the soft green, is like a verse in an unspoken hymn. Beside you, M tilts their head toward the far end of the meadow, where the grass grows taller, almost waist high, and the flowers bend gently as though bowing to something unseen. "There's a path there," they say softly. Not everyone notices it because it doesn't want to be noticed, but if you walk kindly, it will show itself. You follow their gaze. At first, you see only wildflowers in dew-bright grass, swaying in a lazy breeze. Then just at the edge, where shadow meets sun, you glimpse a faint parting in the green, a subtle line that curves inward like a beckoning arm. Moon leads the way, and you step gently through the meadow, careful not to disturb the blossoms. The air here is sweeter, touched with the fragrance of clover and honeysuckle. Bees hum drowsily from bloom to bloom, their sound a soothing bass note beneath the birdsong above. When you reach the hidden path, it seems to widen just enough to welcome you. The grass bows aside, the flowers lean back, and suddenly you are walking on a trail soft with moss, framed by tall stems that sway as if whispering secrets to each other. The deeper you walk, the quieter it becomes. Not silent, no, never silent, but filled with the gentlest sounds. The whisper of your boots brushing grass, the flutter of wings as a butterfly drifts lazily ahead of you, the faint hum of bees carrying sunlight on their backs. The path curves slowly, guiding you into a grove where birch trees stand in a graceful circle. Their white bark gleams like polished bone, etched with delicate gray lines that look like runes, or perhaps simply the forest's own handwriting. Their leaves tremble lightly in the breeze, scattering speckles of gold-green light across the ground. In the center of the grove lies a pool, no larger than a quilt, spread on the grass. Its surface is glass smooth, reflecting the birches so perfectly that it feels like another forest lies just beneath your feet. Dragonflies skim its surface, wings glinting with iridescent blues and greens. The water smells faintly of mint and stone, cool and pure. Em kneels by the pool and dips a hand into the water. "This is the heart of the meadow," they say softly. "The creek you heard last night begins here, seeping out of the earth, gathering strength as it flows downhill. It carries dreams with it, or so the old stories say. Some leave a pebble here to send a wish downstream. Others just listen. You kneel beside them. The moss beneath your knees is plush and damp, as though it has been waiting centuries for this simple act of rest. You dip your own hand into the pool, and the water is cool, startlingly clear, running between your fingers like silk ribbons. You feel refreshed, not just on your skin, but deep within, as though the water has touched something older than your bones. Nearby, a small stack of smooth stones balances precariously, each one carefully chosen and placed. You understand then that every traveler who has come this way has left a mark, quiet, respectful, a gesture to say, "I was here and I honored this place." You glance at M. They smile and place a seed on the moss beside the pool. Every offering is enough, they say. You pull from your pocket the little polished stone you carried from the cabin's jar last night. You roll it in your palm, feeling its weight, its shimmer. Slowly, you place it at the water's edge, where it catches the light and glows faintly, as though agreeing to become part of this hidden rhythm. The pool seems to answer. A tiny ripple spreads outward, though no breeze stirs the surface. It's as though the water itself is whispering, "Thank you." For a time, you simply sit there. The birch leaves murmur, dragonflies dance, the water hums beneath your hand. M says nothing more, and words aren't needed. You feel the meadow's heart beat with your own. When at last you rise, the path seems to open again, leading you deeper into the birches. Sunlight has grown stronger now, though still gentle, filtering down in shafts that illuminate motes of pollen drifting lazily like golden dust. The scent of warm earth rises around you. As you walk on, M says, "This path will bring us back toward the cabin, though it likes to take its time. Along the way, it will show you its treasures, and already you see them. Mushrooms sprouting like tiny umbrellas beneath the birch roots, each cap patterned differently, speckled, smooth, russet, pearl. A fallen log covered in moss, soft enough to be a pillow, a hollow where a rabbit has burrowed, leaving a neat little doorway framed in ferns. The forest doesn't present these things as wonders, it simply allows them to exist, and in that simplicity, they are miraculous. You walk slowly, not to arrive anywhere, but to stay with each step, each breath, each shimmer of light through leaves. And as you do, you realize that the forest is not only guiding you, it is teaching you to walk gently, to notice fully, to belong completely. The path curves once more, and ahead you glimpse the faint smoke from the cabin's chimney rising into the sky, a soft gray thread stitching earth to heaven. You know your journey is only just beginning. The smoke drifting above the trees beckons you gently, curling in the still morning air like a ribbon leading you home. Each step along the mossy path feels lighter, as though the forest itself has given you something invisible to carry back, a secret gift, weightless but deeply felt. As the birch grove fades behind you, the sound of the creek swells again, its voice familiar now, as though greeting you with recognition. You follow its murmurs, stepping out of shadow into the edge of the meadow once more. The deer have gone deeper into the forest, leaving only their soft prints pressed into the damp grass. Birdsong still hangs in the air like silk threads, weaving sunlight into melody. Beside you, M smiles without words, their hands folded loosely behind their back. Their presence is quiet but steady, like a lantern you don't need to look at to know it's burning. Together you walk the last stretch toward the cabin, where its wooden roof peeks through the trees, comforting and sure. When you step onto the porch again, the boards creak in welcome. The door opens with that same familiar sigh, and the air inside greets you warmly. Wood smoke, baked bread, and the faint sweetness of dried herbs hanging from the rafters. The fire has been coaxed back into a cheerful crackle, logs leaning against each other like old friends in conversation. A pot hangs over it, steam rising and carrying the fragrance of lentils, carrots, and rosemary. M stirs the pot with a wooden spoon, then lifts it for you to see. It will be ready soon, they say, enough to fill your belly without slowing the heart. You sink into the chair near the hearth, the one whose cushions seem to remember you from last night. The fabric sighs beneath your weight, and the firelight paints your hands in shades of gold. You let yourself rest there, listening to the soft percussion of the bubbling stew, the whisper of the flames, the clock's quiet heartbeat on the mantel. On the table, Em has set out fresh bread, a small round loaf, its crust split open like a smile, steam still whispering from the cracks. A wedge of soft cheese sits beside it, pale and inviting, with sprigs of thyme scattered around like green confetti. When the stew is ready, Monsieur ladles it into wide bowls, sets one before you, and sits with their own. The first spoonful warms your chest as though you've swallowed a piece of the fire itself. The carrots are sweet, the lentils earthy, the rosemary fragrant, the broth slow and steady like the creek. You eat slowly, savoring not just the flavors but the rhythm of the meal. Chew, swallow, breathe. Afterwards, Em cuts thick slices of bread, spreads them with cheese, and offers one to you. The bread is soft within, the crust crisp, and the cheese melts faintly from the warmth of your fingers. Together, these simple foods feel like a feast, more nourishing than anything ornate. When the meal is done, the cabin grows quieter again. The forest outside has shifted into its midday voice, softer, gentler, filled with the hum of bees and the far-off tapping of a woodpecker. Even the creek seems slower now, as though it too has paused for rest. Em rises, folds the cloth from the table, and lays a hand on the back of your chair. The afternoons here are meant for stillness, they say softly. The forest rests, the animals drowse, and so should you. There is no task to chase, no clock to obey, only the gift of pausing. They gesture to the sofa by the window, where a quilt lies folded over the armrest. Its patches are softer in color than the starry one upstairs, sun-faded greens, gentle browns, threads of gold that catch the light. You walk to it, lift the quilt, and feel its weight in your hands. It smells faintly of sun and thyme, as though it has been dried on the porch railing. You settle onto the sofa, stretching out, letting the quilt fall over you. The fabric presses down with the right kind of heaviness, the heaviness of safety, of permission. Through the window, you see the meadow beyond, its grasses swaying slowly, their tips gilded by the noonday sunday. The fire murmurs behind you, the clock ticks softly, and a breeze nudges the curtains as though reminding you of the forest's steady breath. Em lowers the lanterns until only daylight remains, then pours themselves a small cup of tea. They sit at the desk by the window, pen scratching gently across the journal, their presence quiet but companionable. You close your eyes. The sounds blur together, the crackle of fire, the sigh of the trees, the faint rhythm of Em's pen, and they become like a lullaby, drawing you inward. Your body grows heavy, your mind loosens its hold. The cabin holds you as you drift. The forest breathes with you. Time itself pauses. You rest. When your eyes open again, the light has changed. The golden strength of midday has softened into the gentle glow of afternoon. Shadows from the trees outside have stretched longer across the meadow, painting the grass in slow-moving stripes. The quilt is warm on your chest, and for a moment you remain still, simply listening. The fire has quieted itself to glowing embers, giving off more warmth than sound. From the window comes the steady murmur of the creek, deeper now, as if it has gathered more stories since morning. Somewhere close, a dove coos, slow and steady, like a heartbeat outside the walls. You sit up slowly, letting the quilt slide from your shoulders. Your body feels refreshed, as though the nap has woven new calm into your very bones. M is still at the desk, the journal open, pen set neatly aside. They turn toward you with a smile. The forest has been waiting, they say. Shall we go see what it wants to show this afternoon? You nod, and together you step onto the porch. The air is different, now warmer, touched with the scent of pine resin rising in the Sunday. It carries also the faint sweetness of wildflowers and the clean mineral hush of water moving over stone. The two of you follow the path that curves down toward the creek. The ground is springy with moss, dotted here and there with mushrooms shaped like tiny parasols. As you walk, the forest hums quietly. Bees drift lazily among blossoms, their low buzz unhurried. A butterfly, wings patterned in orange and cream, flutters just ahead, landing on a fern, then lifting again as though guiding your way. The creek greets you with open arms, its surface flashing with Sunday. It runs broad here, flowing over a bed of smooth stones that catch the light like scattered jewels. The sound is both lively and soothing, an endless, rippling conversation between water and earth. You crouch at the bank, dipping your fingers into the current. The water is cool, refreshing, and carries with it the scent of distant mountains where it began. M sits on a nearby boulder, their face relaxed, as though they too are listening to an old friend. The creek keeps secrets, they say softly, not the kind to be hidden, but the kind that belong to everyone. If you sit long enough, it will tell you one. You settle beside them, closing your eyes. The water's voice rises around you. At first it is only sound splashes, burbles, the rush of current, but slowly it becomes something more, like words you can almost understand. It tells you of journeys across hills, of roots dipping into its flow, of deer pausing to drink at dawn, of stars mirrored in its surface at night. It tells you, too, that it will keep flowing long after today, carrying every dream it gathers to places unseen. You open your eyes again. The creek glimmers as though smiling. After a while, M stands and walks to a cluster of flat stones near the water's edge. They slip off their boots and step barefoot into the shallows. The water curls around their ankles, clear enough that every pebble beneath is visible. They beckon you to join, and you do, unlacing your shoes and stepping carefully into the stream. The chill rushes over your skin, but instead of startling, it refreshes like a cool hand on a warm forehead. The stones beneath your feet are smooth, rounded by centuries of patience. You wade a few steps, letting the current tug gently at your legs. Dragonflies dart above the surface, their wings catching the afternoon light like fragments of stained glass. Im laughs softly, a sound as light as the water itself. It reminds us we are small, they say, but never unimportant. When you step back to the bank, the sun has warmed the stones, and you sit there letting your feet dry. The air is filled with layered scents, moss, water, pine, and the faint sweetness of a flowering shrub nearby. A heron appears then, tall and graceful, standing at the bend of the creek. It lowers its head, still as a statue, then steps forward, water rippling around its legs. Its wings, when it stretches them, span wider than the path behind the cabin, pale gray-edged with silver. You watch in reverent silence as it lifts into the air, slow and majestic, its shadow passing over the water like a drifting cloud. The world feels hushed again when it has gone, but not empty. The creek resumes its conversation. The trees, their whispers. The forest is never silent. It is always speaking in gentle tongues. M places a hand on your shoulder. Shall we walk upstream a little? There's a place where the water widens into a pool. The fish there move like stars beneath the surface. You nod, rising, and together you follow the curve of the creek. The path is soft, shaded by branches that lace together overhead, filtering the sun into a green-gold glow. The sound of the water grows fuller as you approach, and soon you see it, a pool where the creek slows, its surface a mirror framed by rocks and reeds. You kneel at the edge and peer in. Beneath the glassy surface, fish drift lazily, their scales flashing silver, copper, and gold. They move in slow arcs, like constellations rearranging themselves across a night sky. Watching them calms your breathing, draws your thoughts into their rhythm. The afternoon lengthens, shadows stretching across the pool, and the fish gleam brighter in contrast. Time feels unimportant here. You could stay for minutes or hours and not know the difference. Finally, M rises. The cabin will be waiting, they say, but the creek will always be here. You can return whenever you wish. You take one last look at the fish, their gentle drifting, then follow M back along the path. The water sings behind you, promising its story is never finished. As the cabin comes into view again, smoke curls once more from the chimney, and the porch waits with the same quiet welcome. The afternoon has given you its treasures. Evening will bring its own. The sun leans lower now, brushing the treetops with gold. The cabin stands in this light, as if painted into the scene, its roof dark against the sky, its windows catching the fading glow like lanterns lit from within. The air has shifted, still warm, but carrying the faint, cool promise of night, laced with the sweet smoke of the fire inside. You step onto the porch, and the boards give their familiar creak, a sound that feels less like wood and more like a greeting. The door swings open, and warmth pours out a mixture of pine logs burning, herbs hanging from rafters, and something baking, rich and faintly spiced. M is in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, pulling a tray from the oven. The smell makes you pause. Apples softened with cinnamon, tucked in pastry that glows golden in the firelight. They set the tray on the counter, the crust crackling faintly as it cools. Perfect timing, M says, brushing their hands together. The forest gives us apples, and we repay it with gratitude. You settle back into your chair by the hearth as M cuts the pastry into gentle slices, laying them onto small wooden plates. They bring one to you with a smile. The crust is crisp, the apples inside tender and sweet, the cinnamon warm without sharpness. Each bite melts into comfort, grounding you further in this moment. The fire has been built up again, its flames dancing higher, throwing playful light across the stone hearth. Sparks leap and vanish like fleeting stars. You sip from a mug of warm milk that Emma has sweetened with honey, its steam curling against your cheek. The warmth seeps into you, slow and steady. After the plates are cleared, M takes down an old wooden box from the mantel. Its surface is carved with vines and tiny flowers, worn smooth by years of handling. They set it on the low table, open it, and reveal a small collection of objects: feathers, smooth river stones, pressed flowers, a tiny vial of sand, a coin with a hole in its center. These are stories, Monsieur says softly, not written on paper, but held in things. Each visitor who has come to this cabin has left something or chosen one to carry into the night. Would you like to hear one? You nod, and M lifts the feather white tipped with silver, so soft it barely seems real. This was left by a traveler who said they found it on the shore of a distant lake. They believed it belonged to a swan who only appeared under the full moon. They wrote no words, but left the feather here so the swan's story might float into our dreams. They replace the feather and pick up the coin. Its surface is worn smooth, its hull perfectly round. This came from a sailor who spoke little but smiled often. They said it was for safe passage, a reminder that circles always return. I keep it here because the creek itself is a circle it leaves, but always returns as rain. As M speaks, you feel your eyes grow heavier, lulled not just by their words but by the fire's steady crackle, the hush of the forest outside, the rhythm of your own breath. The stories are not sharp or dramatic, they drift like smoke, like lullabies that ask for nothing but listening. When M sets the objects back into the box, they close the lid gently and return it to the mantle. The night has its own stories, they say, and it's almost ready to tell them. You glance toward the window. Outside, twilight is pooling among the trees. The sky shifts from gold to rose to a deepening blue. The first star appears, clear and certain, like a candle in a high window. The meadow darkens, and the shadows of the pines stretch long across it, their edges softened by the rising dusk. M stands and opens the back door. Cool air drifts in, carrying the chorus of evening crickets beginning their song, frogs joining with low, steady notes. "Shall we step outside?" they ask. You follow them into the night. The porch is cooler now, the boards touched with dew. The forest has transformed. What was bright and lively in the afternoon is now hushed and luminous. Fireflies flicker among the grasses, their lights pulsing in slow rhythm, as if the earth itself were breathing light. You sit in the rocking chair, while M settles onto the steps. The stars grow bolder overhead, one after another, until the sky is scattered with them. The moon rises pale and round above the trees, its light spilling silver across the meadow, touching the creek so it shimmers like a path of glass. M hums softly, a tune without words, low and warm. It blends with the crickets, with the creek, with the gentle sway of the rocking chair. You breathe deeply, the night filling your lungs with coolness, emptying them of any last weight. The fire inside the cabin flickers through the windows, and the forest around you leans closer, as though listening. The world feels wrapped in layers of comfort, warmth within, coolness without, light above, earth below. This is evening, you realize, not something to move through, but something to dwell inside, to rest within, like a quilt drawn across your shoulders. M turns to you and says, "Tomorrow will have its own stories, but tonight, all you need to do is listen." And so you do. You listen to the fire, to the creek, to the stars themselves, until listening becomes resting, and resting becomes dreaming. The evening deepens, and the forest around the cabin becomes a vast cathedral of shadow and light. The moon hangs higher now, spilling silver through the branches. Stars glitter thickly above, their light cool and sharp against the velvet dark. You rock gently in the chair on the porch, the wood creaking with a rhythm as old as the trees themselves. M rises quietly and brings out a woolen blanket, draping it across your shoulders. It carries the faint scent of lavender and sun, as though it has absorbed many afternoons drying on a line. You pull it closer, the warmth mingling with the cool kiss of the night air. "The stars are especially kind tonight, monsieur," said, settling back onto the steps. Their voice is low, almost reverent. They tell stories too, though they never hurry. "Shall I show you some of them?" You nod, tilting your head back. The sky is a map, infinite and yet intimate, stretched above the dark silhouettes of pines. M lifts a hand toward the north. There, they say, pointing to a cluster of bright stars. That is the hunter's lantern. Long ago, it was said to be a beacon left burning, so travelers in the forest would always find their way home. And if you look to the left, see that soft scattering? That's the nest. Some say it's where all dreams are kept before they drift down to earth. As they speak, you begin to see the constellations not as distant points of light, but as gentle companions, lanterns, nests, paths, guides in the great dark. You imagine them watching over the cabin, spilling their light not just for the sky, but for you, here and now. The rocking chair sways softly beneath you, back and forth, as though cradling you into stillness. Each creak feels like a heartbeat of wood, echoing your own. From the meadow, the glow of fireflies rises higher, their tiny sparks mingling with the stars above until the line between earth and sky feels blurred. You close your eyes for a moment and feel as if you are floating in a space filled with lights, held aloft by nothing but peace. M breaks the silence gently. Would you like to take a small walk? The night is calm, and the forest has a secret face. It only shows under moonlight. You agree, and together you step down from the porch. The grass is cool and damp with dew, brushing against your boots as you move toward the tree line. The forest welcomes you with its night voice, the steady trill of crickets, the occasional call of an owl, the rustle of unseen creatures in the underbrush. The path is easy to follow, bathed in pale light that slips between branches. Shadows stretch long and soft, never threatening, only deepening the sense of mystery. You walk slowly, every step cushioned by pine needles, every breath filled with the scent of moss and damp earth. M leads you to a small clearing where the trees part, revealing more of the sky than you can see from the cabin. Here, the stars blaze even brighter, scattered so thickly they look like frost upon glass. You stand in silence, gazing upward. Here, Monsieur whispers, is where I come to listen. They close their eyes, tilting their face toward the heavens. You do the same, and in the stillness, you realize that even the silence of stars has a sound, a faint hum, low and endless, like the breath of the universe itself. Time becomes immeasurable. Minutes, perhaps hours, pass as you stand there, the world reduced to you, M, the forest, and the sky. When at last you lower your gaze, the clearing itself feels transformed. The grasses glow faintly, touched by dew that reflects the moonlight. Small moths drift like pale petals on the air. Even the stones seem to shimmer faintly, as though borrowing light from the heavens above. M smiles, eyes soft. This is why the cabin is here, so that those who wander can find not only rest, but wonder. You walk back slowly, carrying the stillness with you. The cabin greets you once more, with its golden windows glowing in the dark, like a lighthouse on a calm sea. Inside, the fire has settled into a low glow, embers pulsing quietly. The quilt on the sofa waits, and the loft above holds its promise of sleep. But before bed, you linger one last time at the window, looking out over the meadow, the creek, and the sky beyond. The stars continue to shine, patient and infinite, whispering their stories to anyone willing to listen. And you are listening, always listening. The cabin is hushed as you step back inside. The fire glows low, its embers pulsing gently, red gold as a heartbeat at rest. You close the door, and the sounds of the night, the crickets, The creak, the owl's gentle call, soften into a distant lull, like music heard through a dream. Em lights a small lantern, its glow soft and golden, guiding the way to the loft ladder. The bed is waiting, they murmur, voice warm as wool. The quilt will keep the night kind. You climb slowly, each step creaking like a whisper, until you reach the loft again. The air here is cool and clean, touched with the faint perfume of cedar and lavender. The bed waits, quilt folded back, the pillow plump and inviting. The polished stone you left on the stump table gleams faintly in the lantern light, as though it has been listening all along. You slip beneath the quilt. Its weight is perfect, heavy enough to ground you, soft enough to embrace you. The fabric smells faintly of sun-warmed fields, and when it settles across your chest, you feel as though you have been stitched into its constellations, another star sewn into the sky of sleep. Through the window, above the bed, the night looks in. The moon hangs like a silver lantern, its light spilling across the floorboards. The creak's murmur drifts upward, softer here, a lullaby's undertone. A breeze stirs the curtain, brushing cool air across your cheek, carrying the scent of pine and moss. You close your eyes, but your senses stay awake a little longer. You hear the faint patter of paws on the roof, perhaps squirrels, as Em promised, chasing their own nighttime dreams. You catch the far-off bark of a fox, sharp but softened by distance. You feel the mattress cradle you, as though it has memorized your shape, holding you securely. In the loft stillness, your thoughts loosen. They drift like fireflies, glowing for a moment before dissolving into the larger dark. One thought rests on the creek, another on the heron, another on the stars. They come and go, unhurried, leaving behind only calm. Then you notice something else, the softest sound, barely more than a breath. You tilt your head and realize it's the cabin itself. The wood expands and settles, sighing quietly. The rafters creak, not in complaint, but in contentment. It is as though the cabin is breathing with you, its rhythm steady, its pulse matching yours. Em appears briefly at the top of the ladder, lantern in hand. They set it low, dimming the light to a soft glow. "Sleep well," they whisper. "The night will keep you safe." Their footsteps descend, and you hear the faint scrape of a chair as they settle by the hearth below, their presence anchoring the cabin like a steady flame. The loft grows darker as the lantern's glow fades, leaving only moonlight and the stars outside. You lie still, listening as the night gathers around you. The forest's hush, the creek's murmur, the fire's last sighs. Together, they weave a cocoon of sound and silence, carrying you deeper into rest. Your breath lengthens, your body grows heavier, sinking into the mattress. Even your thoughts slow, pausing between each drift until they too become quiet. The quilt of stars holds you, the cabin breathes with you, and the night wraps around you like the softest shawl. And in that stillness, you sleep. When you stir again, the world is softened in silver. The loft window glows with the earliest light of dawn, pale and delicate, as though the sky itself is still deciding whether to rise. A faint mist clings to the meadow beyond, curling around the grasses and drifting like breath across the earth. You stretch beneath the quilt, the fabric cool now but still scented faintly of lavender and wood smoke. The stone beside your pillow gleams with a single thread of dawn, as though it has held the night for you and is ready to hand you the morning. The cabin is quiet, Only the soft crackle of the last ember below reminds you of the fire's presence. The air is crisp, touched with the scent of dew and pine, sliding in through the window left slightly ajar. You sit up slowly, savoring the stillness. Outside, the forest is waking too. Birds begin one by one, their calls tentative at first, then stronger, weaving together into a chorus. The creek answers with a steady undertone, patient and unchanged. Descending the ladder, you find the main room bathed in gentle light, filtered through curtains that sway with the cool morning breeze. On the table, Em has already set a pot to steam. The fragrance is warm oats, spiced lightly with cardamom, and a bowl of berries fresh and glistening with dew. Em looks up with a smile, their eyes still softened by the calm of night. "Good morning," they say, voice like the first cup of tea after sleep. The forest whispered that you slept well. You nod, and it feels true in every part of you. Together you share a simple breakfast. The oats are creamy and sweetened with honey, the berries bursting with tart brightness. A pot of tea, this time laced with chamomile and mint, warms your hands and soothes your chest. The steam curls into the air, faintly perfumed, rising like a quiet prayer. Afterwards, Em gestures to the porch. "Shall we greet the day?" You step outside, and the mist embraces you. The meadow stretches like a dreamscape, grasses silver-tipped, spiderwebs jeweled with dew, wildflowers bowing under the weight of moisture that will soon lift. The air is cool against your skin, sharper than night, but filled with promise. In the distance, the deer return, their shapes ghost-like in the fog. They move with silent grace, pausing to nibble at shoots, their ears flicking at unseen sounds. A rabbit darts across the meadow, its fur damp with dew, leaving tiny prints that vanish almost as soon as they appear. You walk with Monsieur to the edge of the porch. The wood beneath your bare feet is cool, touched by night air. You inhale deeply, and the mist seems to settle in your lungs, clearing every last corner of sleep. The forest speaks in small voices, drips of water falling from leaves, wings fluttering as sparrows take flight, the soft creak of branches waking in the breeze. It is not loud, but it is alive, full of life beginning again. Em leans against the railing, watching the fog shift. This is the hour when the world is closest to dreams, they say, quietly. Neither night nor day, but something in between. If you listen, you can almost hear both. You close your eyes, and you do. You hear the fading hush of night, the owl's final call, the creek's slow murmur, and at the same time, the new notes of day, the robin's bright song, the flutter of wings, the far-off sound of woodpecker tapping. Both exist together in this moment, like two hands meeting in a clasp. As the sun rises higher, the mist begins to thin. Beams of light break through the trees, golden and soft, warming your face. The meadow shifts from silver to green, the flowers lifting their heads, shaking off their jeweled crowns. The world exhales, as though relieved to be fully awake. Em touches your shoulder gently. The day will carry us forward now, they say, and the forest has more to share if you'd like to walk again. But for now, you linger on the porch, wrapped in the fading mist, listening to the balance of night and morning, feeling both rest and renewal woven into your breath. The day has begun, but softly, gently, as if not to disturb the peace that has carried you through the night. The mist thins further as the sun climbs, and soon the meadow shines in full morning color. Dew drops sparkle on every blade of grass, glinting like tiny prisms, as if the earth itself were scattered with jewels. The air has warmed just enough to carry a sweetness, wildflowers opening, pine resin stirred gently by sunlight. Em gathers a small basket from the porch. Its weave simple but strong. "We'll take a short walk," they say. "The forest keeps gifts for those who wander slowly." You step from the porch, the ground soft and damp beneath your boots. The path winds through pines, their tall trunks glowing in shafts of golden light. The canopy above filters the sun into dappled patterns, leaves trembling with a quiet song in the breeze. Birds flit between branches, bright wings flashing. You hear the tap of a woodpecker, the high call of a jay, and the softer murmurs of sparrows weaving their own threads of sound. Every note feels like part of a symphony, played just for the two of you walking here. As you move deeper into the forest, Em pauses often, kneeling to pick a sprig of mint by a shaded stone, then tucking it carefully into the basket. A few steps later, they gather wild thyme, its leaves tiny and fragrant, for tea, they explain, and for soup on cooler nights. You bend to touch the thyme yourself, rubbing a leaf between your fingers. The scent rises sharp and comforting, clinging to your skin like a promise. The path narrows, winding between tall ferns whose fronds brush your arms. Their green is deep, almost luminous in the morning light. From beneath them, a rabbit darts, pausing only a moment before vanishing again into shadow. Soon you come to a clearing you've not yet seen, a circle of grass ringed with tall birches, their white bark gleaming against the sky. In the center, a patch of wild strawberries spreads low to the ground, tiny red fruits glowing like scattered rubies. Em kneels and gestures for you to join. Together, you pick the berries carefully, their skins cool and damp from the morning dew. When you taste one, it bursts with sweetness, far richer than anything carried from a market. The flavor lingers on your tongue, bright as sunlight, delicate as a memory you never want to lose. Em laughs softly, juice staining their fingers. The forest always knows how to share joy, they say. You smile, feeling the truth of it in the warmth of your chest. After filling a small pouch with the ripest berries, you continue along the path. The forest shifts as you walk, the ground rising gently, the trees spreading wider apart. Sunlight falls in golden rivers now, illuminating moss-covered stones and patches of wildflowers swaying lightly. A butterfly joins you, wings painted with blue so bright they seem lit from within. It drifts ahead, landing briefly on a fern, then lifts again, as though guiding you forward. The path leads you to a gentle slope overlooking the creek. From here, you can see it winding through the meadow, its surface catching the sun in flashes of silver. The water seems to laugh more brightly in the daylight, rushing over stones, tumbling with cheerful energy. You and Em sit on a large flat rock, warmed by the Sunday. The basket rests between you, filled now with herbs and berries, their scents mingling in the air. The rock's surface is smooth, comforting beneath your palms, holding the sun's warmth like a gift. For a while, you sit without speaking, simply watching the creek move and the forest breathe. Time feels suspended, stretched wide and gentle, as though this moment could last forever. Em eventually turns to you, their voice low and calm. Every day, here is a story, they say, but only if you move slowly enough to hear it. The forest doesn't rush. You nod, understanding. The morning has passed, but it doesn't feel gone. It feels folded into you, stitched into the quiet fabric of your being, the way dew lingers in leaves even after the sun has risen. When you stand again, you take the basket, its weight light but meaningful. Together you walk back toward the cabin, the path glowing with midday light, the forest humming with life around you. Ahead, the cabin waits, with its chimney rising, smoke curling like a thread of peace against the blue sky. The day has stretched open, ready to carry you gently onward. The sun is high now, warm and gentle, filling the meadow with light so soft it feels like a golden quilt spread across the earth. The cabin sits within this glow, its roof dappled by leaves, its window shining with reflections of sky and branch. Smoke drifts lazily from the chimney, more a whisper than a plume, as though even the fire has slowed to match the rhythm of the day. You step onto the porch with M, the basket of herbs and berries in your hands. Inside, the cabin is cooler, the thick walls holding the morning's shade. The fire in the hearth is low, embers glowing but unhurried. M sets the basket on the table and begins laying out the treasures of your walk: mint, thyme, wild berries, and sprigs of rosemary. Their scents mingle, filling the air with a freshness that is both lively and calming. Afternoons here are for making, M says softly. Not work, not labor, just simple creation that keeps the heart steady. On the shelves by the window are jars half filled with dried herbs, each labeled in looping handwriting. M shows you how to spread the thyme sprigs across a woven tray so the air will dry them gently. You help, arranging each sprig carefully, their leaves tiny yet fragrant, the stems snapping softly as they settle into place. The mint is tied in small bundles with twine, hung from the rafters where they will swing lightly in the air. They look like tiny green lanterns, leaves brushing against one another with the faintest rustle. The berries, still cool from the morning dew, are rinsed in a ceramic bowl. Some are set aside in a wooden dish for eating now, while the rest are gently crushed into a jar with honey. The mixture glows red gold, catching the sunlight as M stirs it with a wooden spoon. For winter nights, they explain, a taste of summer when the snow falls. When the work is done, the table is cleared, and a teapot is set out once more. This time the tea is simple, a handful of fresh mint leaves steeped in hot water, their scent rising bright and sharp. You sip slowly, the coolness of mint spreading warmth through your chest in an almost paradoxical way. Afterwards, the cabin grows still, the sounds of the forest beyond filter through the open window, bees humming among wildflowers, the creek's steady song, the distant call of a woodpecker tapping patiently. Inside, the clock ticks with its quiet rhythm, a gentle reminder that time moves, though here it seems softer, less demanding. M brings out a small wooden box filled with paper, brushes, and pigments ground from herbs and minerals. They set it on the table, inviting you to sit. This is what I do when the day is full of light, they say. I let it spill onto the page. You watch as they dip a brush into water, then into a dish of pigment the color of deep green moss. On the paper the brush glides, leaving behind strokes that curve into the shape of a leaf. They add more strokes, layering shades until the leaf looks alive, trembling on the page as though stirred by an unseen breeze. M passes you a brush, smiling. There is no wrong mark, only colors finding their place. You dip your brush into a pale gold pigment and make your first stroke. The paint glides easily, and though your hand hesitates, the line feels true. Soon you add another, then another, each stroke blending into the next. Slowly, shapes begin to form, not perfect, but full of life, shimmering in the afternoon light. Together, you paint in silence, the only sounds, The faint scratch of brushes on paper and the occasional sigh of the fire. The act itself feels meditative, each stroke a breath, each color a note in a song of calm. When at last you set down your brush, you see that the page holds something more than lines and colors. It holds the quiet of the meadow, the warmth of the sun, the stillness of the forest. It is not just a picture, but a memory, captured and safe. M studies your work with a gentle nod. The forest will be glad you listened, they say. They tuck the painting onto the shelf beside others, leaves, flowers, birds, stars, each one a fragment of the cabin's story. The afternoon stretches onward, but you feel no rush. You lean back in your chair, watching dust motes drift lazily in the golden light streaming through the window. They swirl and spin, catching beams of sun until they look like tiny galaxies moving slowly through the air. The warmth of tea lingers in your chest. The rhythm of the forest hums beyond the walls. The cabin itself seems to sigh with satisfaction, its beams and stones holding all the small creations of the day. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the golden quiet wrap around you. There is no task ahead, no hurry behind. Only this, the peace of noon, the joy of making, the stillness of being. The day has deepened, and you with it. The sun begins to soften now, its golden intensity fading into a gentler glow. Shadows lengthen across the meadow, stretching like sleepy arms, while the tops of the trees are brushed in amber. The air has changed again, still warm, but carrying a cooler undertone, a hint of evening's approach. M closes the wooden box of paints and sets it neatly on the shelf. They glance toward the door with a quiet smile. This is the hour when the forest slows. Would you like to walk again just to listen? You nod, and together you step outside. The porch boards sigh underfoot, the meadow waiting in front of you, glowing in late light. The grasses sway slowly, every movement deliberate, as if the earth itself has begun to breathe more deeply. The path leads back toward the trees, but in this light the forest feels different. The greens are deeper now, the shadows cooler, and beams of sun spill between branches in slanted rays. They catch on floating specks of dust and pollen, turning them into drifting sparks. You walk slowly, every step cushioned by pine needles, every breath full of the forest's perfume, damp moss, resin, and the faint sweetness of late wildflowers. Somewhere high above, a wood dove coos, its call slow and mellow, marking time as softly as the clock in the cabin. Deeper in the woods, the sounds shift. The bees are quieter now, their work nearly done, while crickets begin their song earlier than before, tentative at first, then steadier. A squirrel scrambles up a trunk, pauses to regard you with bright eyes, then disappears among the branches. M leads you toward a gentle rise, where the trees part slightly, opening to a view of the creek. In the afternoon light it glows differently, no longer the silver song of morning, but bronze, like melted amber, sliding over stone. You stand together at the bank, watching as the water moves in long ribbons, the current slower now, carrying with it the hush of the hour. You can feel the day turning, monsieur, softly. The forest teaches us to move gently into each change. You listen, and you do feel it, the gradual slowing, the way everything seems to bow toward evening, without resistance, without hurry. Nearby, dragonflies hover, their wings catching the last light, flashing in brief bursts of color, blue, green, violet. They skim the surface of the water, their reflections doubling their dance. The air is cooler here by the creek. You kneel and trail your fingers through the water. It feels softer, Then in the morning, as though warmed by the sun but mellowed by the hours it has traveled since, a leaf floats past, spinning slowly, a tiny boat on its way to unseen shores. Im gathers a few smooth stones from the bank and hands one to you. Throw it gently, they say. You toss it lightly, and it skips twice before sinking with a soft plop. The ripples spread outward, catching the light, making golden rings that overlap and shimmer until they fade. For a while, you and M sit in silence, each lost in the rhythm of water and air. The forest seems to press close, not to crowd, but to comfort. You feel its vastness around you, and yet, somehow, it feels like it belongs entirely to this single moment. When the light lowers further, painting the trunks in orange fire, Monsieur rises. Let's head back, they say. The cabin will glow soon, and the fire is ready for us. You walk the return path in the hush of the hour before dusk. The birds call less now, their songs fewer but richer, like the final notes of a hymn. The trees cast long shadows, stripes across the mossy ground, and ahead, through the branches, you see the cabin once more, its lanterns already flickering to life, small stars preparing to meet the night. The air grows cooler as you step back onto the porch, but the warmth inside is ready to greet you. The forest has given you its afternoon. Now evening waits, gentle and sure. The moment you step back into the cabin, twilight follows you inside. The lanterns glow softly, their light golden and low, filling corners without chasing away the shadows. The fire has been coaxed into a cheerful crackle, its flames reaching upward in slow, graceful arcs. The air is warm and fragrant, carrying the mingled scents of pine wood, dried herbs, and something sweet, baking gently in the oven. M places the basket of berries and herbs on the table, arranging them neatly as though even their resting has meaning. Then they gesture toward the hearth. Sit, they say softly. The evening wants to wrap around you. You sink into your familiar chair by the fire, its cushions cradling you as though they have memorized your shape. The quilt lies folded nearby, its patches glowing in the lantern light. M places a steaming cup of chamomile tea in your hands, the mug warm against your palms, the steam curling upward with the scent of flowers and honey. The fire speaks in its language of pops and sighs, each sound a note in an old lullaby. Shadows dance on the walls, flickering like gentle spirits. The cabin itself feels alive, beams settling with quiet creaks, floorboards humming faintly under the shifting of the fire's warmth. M settles into the rocking chair across from you. They hold a small wooden flute, simple and unadorned. Without a word, they lift it to their lips and begin to play. The melody is slow, meandering like the creek, rising and falling like the trees swaying in wind. It carries no urgency, only ease notes spilling like drops of water, pauses as wide and comforting as silence itself. The music fills the cabin without crowding it, weaving itself into the fire's crackle, the clock's steady tick, the soft hum of evening insects just beyond the window. You close your eyes, and the melody paints pictures, fireflies rising like lanterns, stars bending closer to listen, the forest breathing in time with the tune. Each note feels like a hand smoothing the edges of your thoughts, leaving them calm, round, and gentle. When the song fades, silence returns like a blanket pulled up to your chin. M lowers the flute and smiles softly. The night likes to hear its own song, they say. From the oven comes a faint sound, a crisping crust. Monsieur rises and brings out a small loaf of bread, baked with herbs gathered earlier. Its scent fills the room, rosemary, thyme, and the warm earthiness of grain. They slice it carefully, offering you a piece, still steaming. The crust is crisp, the inside tender, flavored with the day itself. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, feeling it settle into you like peace. Outside the window, twilight deepens into night. The meadow glows silver under the rising moon. Fireflies drifting lazily, their light answering the stars above. The creek hums softly, its song slowed for evening. Monsieur dims the lanterns further, leaving only the fire's glow. It's time, they murmur, to let the night carry you. You climb once more into the loft, the quilt waiting. The sheets are cool, the pillow soft, and when you slip beneath the quilt, it folds around you with the weight of safety. Through the open window, moonlight spills across the floor, gentle and pale. The forest is quiet now, holding its breath for the dreams it will keep. Below, the fire sighs, M hums faintly, and the cabin settles into silence. You breathe in deeply, the air scented with herbs and smoke. You breathe out slowly, the world softening around you. The day is complete, the night is yours. The loft glows faintly with moonlight, its beams silver and soft, laying across the quilt like threads of silk. The air is cool but not cold, scented with pine drifting in through the open window. The creek's steady murmur reaches your ears like a lullaby, and every sound in the cabin folds itself into harmony. The fire's low sigh, the quiet tick of the mantel clock, the faint rustle of the rafters. You shift deeper beneath the quilt, its constellations stitched with care, as if the stars themselves have come down to rest with you. The pillow cradles your head, and the mattress supports every curve of your body, inviting you to release every last ounce of weight you've carried. Below, M moves softly, tending the fire, one last time. You hear the quiet scrape of the poker, the gentle thud of a new log, and then the fire's grateful reply as it breathes brighter for a moment before settling into steady warmth. M hums faintly, a tune as old as the forest, low and sweet, blending into the rhythm of the night. Through the loft window, the sky stretches vast and infinite. Stars shimmer thickly, scattered like seeds across dark soil, each one steady, each one patient. The moon hangs high, full and luminous, bathing the meadow in silver. Fireflies still drift, rising and fading, as though breathing with the earth. Your eyes grow heavy, lids lowering with each breath. Every inhale carries the forest's calm into your chest. Every exhale releases any thought, any lingering tension, into the still night. The cabin itself seems to breathe with you, its beams and stones alive, its voice one of deep safety. It holds you, shelters you, cradles you in its warm heart. M's voice drifts softly upward, barely louder than the fire's sigh. Rest now, the night will keep you safe. The stars will watch, the creek will sing, and the forest will dream with you. The words settle like a quilt within the quilt, wrapping you twice over. You feel them, not just hear them, and they guide you deeper into calm. Your breath lengthens, your body sinks heavier. Thoughts drift away like leaves on the creek, carried downstream into dreams. The fire glows low, the clock ticks softly, the forest leans close, and you sleep, deep, peaceful, endless sleep. The cabin watches over you, the stars keep their vigil, and the night itself becomes your truest lullaby.